Trades are one of the most exciting and intriguing aspects of sports because just one trade can change a team entirely. This could be a really good thing or a really bad thing, a blessing or a curse. In the case of the Los Angeles Clippers, it's the absolute worst decision in the history of basketball. The Los Angeles Clippers are not doing so well. They started out the season with an awful 6-21 record, but as the season went on, they picked up the pace a bit. But with James Harden leaving the Clippers to go to the Cavaliers, things aren't looking too bright for LA, as they find themselves 9th in the standings and have no chances of winning an NBA championship. But not only are they not doing so well, they may have just helped create one of the best teams in NBA history in the process. And every team must suffer because of it. 2019 was one of the busiest and insane off-seasons in NBA history. So many big-time players signing with brand new teams. So many blockbuster trades. So many new super teams ready to compete for an NBA championship. It really shook up the NBA. Westbrook to the Rockets after spending 11 electric seasons with the Thunder. AD to the Lakers, which eventually led to them winning an NBA championship that season. KD leaving arguably the greatest team in NBA history to go to the Nets to team up with Kyrie. But one notable trade that went down during this period was the Paul George trade. After winning the championship in 2019, Kawhi Leonard was left a free agent. His contract with the Raptors only lasted 1 year, and it was clear from the start that Leonard didn't want to be in Toronto long term. Even his teammate admitted years after that Leonard never wanted to be there in the first place. Now, Kawhi wasn't just any free agent. He was the most wanted free agent that offseason. Many fans believed that Leonard was going to the Lakers, as Leonard wanted to play in Southern California close to home. But instead, Kawhi ended up convincing Paul George to come to the Clippers. So the Clippers traded for Paul George, which ended up being a huge mistake. A mistake not because they got George, but because of what they gave up for him. The Clippers gave up a young Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, and 7 picks. The Los Angeles Clippers gambled away their entire future to get a championship immediately. With just one trade, the Clippers went from a young developing team into one of the biggest championship or bust rosters we've ever seen. The Clippers had nothing but high hopes for the new season. Nothing less than an NBA championship would be acceptable. They arguably had the two best two-way players in the league at the time, in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who could play elite defense and still be explosive on offense. Zubac and Montrezl Harrell were good for rebounding purposes, and they had depth with Lou Williams and Reggie Jackson, and things went well for the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard was an all-star that year, and in fact, he won All-Star Game MVP. Leonard ended the season averaging 27 points per game and 7 rebounds per game. George ended the season with 21 points per game. Both stars missed a lot of games, especially George, who only played less than 50 games that season. But none of that mattered, because the Clippers finished second in the East, only behind the Lakers. Leonard and George were healthy going into the playoffs, and the Clippers never looked better. The Clippers played Luka Doncic and the Mavericks in the first round. George struggled in the series for the most part, only averaging 18 points per game in the series, and only shot 27% from 3. But Leonard most certainly didn't, averaging 32 points per game in the series. The Clippers controlled the series for the most part up until Game 4, where they lost in overtime due to an iconic Luka Doncic game winner to tie the series at 2 apiece.
Back to Doncic. Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Doncic wins the game at the buzzer!
But even with Luka's scoring outbursts throughout the series, the Clippers finished off the last 2 games of the series comfortably, in which both games they won by 15 or more points. Next up was the Denver Nuggets, who had just come off a 7-game series against the Jazz, in which Jamal Murray played the best basketball in his career. Murray averaged 31 points per game in that series, including a 50-point game in Game 4, 42 points in Game 5, and 50 points again in Game 6. This was not going to be an easy task for the Clippers. Although the first 4 games seemed easy, the Clippers opened up the series winning 3 out of the first 4. The Clippers had a 3-1 lead and 3 games to close out the series. Surely they didn't choke, right?
Outside Jokic for the lead. Hard! What a comeback by Denver! Rebound, Leonard, that's it. survives.
Poison off-balance jumper. Oh! It finds net! Send this to a Game 7. Jokic forces one up. And the Nuggets looking to make their move. Their leading man, Jamal Murray, against Utah. They were down 3-1. Now they'll try to do it again against the Clippers.
His numbers are already a double-double plus 5 assists. Murray again drills Plumlee's pass deflected, but goes. It's to Murray. Puts it up. Puts it in. 9 from the field. Murray, long three-pointer.
That's good. Jamal Murray
down. Murray puts up a 3.
Bang! Jamal Murray from downtown. It's an 18-point lead.
As the Denver Nuggets are going back to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in 11 years.
What seemed to be an effortless walk in the park turned out to be a complete disaster. The Clippers flat out choked. But not only did they choke a 3-1 lead, they choked every lead they had in the last 3 games individually. In the last 3 games of the series, the Clippers led at halftime in all 3 of them, including a 14-point lead in Game 5 and a 16-point lead in Game 6. Although the first season in the Kawhi and George era didn't result in a championship, there was still much more to look forward to. As long as the Clippers had the core of Kawhi and George, they had every reason to be optimistic in every season that they went into. At this point in time, fans didn't really believe that the Clippers lost this trade. So, the Clippers ran it back the following season. Leonard and George played well, just like last season, with Leonard finishing the season averaging just below 25 points per game, and George 23 points per game. But the Clippers finished worse than the previous season with the 4th seed in the West, meaning they would once again play the Mavericks in the first round. But this time, the Mavericks started out hot, winning the first 2 games of the series. LA then responded by winning the next 2 in Dallas. Game 5 was pivotal for the series, and Luka Doncic took command with a 42-point performance to take the series lead. With the Clippers needing to win the last 2 games of the series, they needed a big-time performance from their stars, and Kawhi Leonard delivered.
On the floor, they have the ability. My goodness.
Oh, Kawhi Leonard was jabbing at him with that right arm. Kawhi Leonard for 3.
It's good. Kawhi Leonard getting after it. Leonard drills the 3-pointer.
5 to shoot. Leonard step back 3. Bang! Clock at 6. Leonard step back 3.
Puts it in. He does it again.
Kawhi scored 45 points in Game 6 and a near 30-point triple-double in Game 7, and the Clippers advanced. Things were really clicking for LA, and this year looked like the year they were really going to challenge for their first NBA championship. The Clippers faced the #1 seeded Jazz in the second round, to which they lost the first 2 games, but they responded back with a Game 3 and 4 victory to even the series. But something detrimental would happen in Game 4 that would ruin their championship hopes completely.
Leonard is fouled and he's limping.
With 5.5 minutes left in Game 4, Kawhi Leonard suffered a knee injury while driving to the basket. Now initially, Leonard's body language made it seem like the injury was not as severe, as he walked it off and even finished the rest of the game.
You seemed like you were in a little bit of pain. You sat not long after that. Any concerns with that right leg? What happened there?
No, I'll be good.
Just hearing these words alone gave Clippers fans a huge sigh of relief, as Leonard's words made things seem like they'd be okay, but that couldn't be any further from the truth.
The Clippers say Kawhi Leonard just had surgery for a partially torn ACL. Leonard had the surgery on his right knee Tuesday. There is no timetable for his return.
What seemed to be a minor knee injury turned into an ACL tear. Leonard's season was over in an instant, and just like that, the Clippers were major underdogs to win a championship. But this didn't stop LA, as they still had Paul George to rely on. Going into Game 5, it was Paul George's team now. Just about every possession went through him. He was the main option, and he didn't disappoint. George put on a clinic with 37 points and 16 rebounds. As the Clippers came back from down 0-2 to now leading 3-2, the momentum was all theirs. LA was coming home with a chance to send the #1 seed in the West home. In Game 6, the Clippers came back from being down by 25 points. Instead of Paul George taking control, it was more of a team effort, as Terrence Mann scored a career-high 39 points, Reggie Jackson poured in 27 points and 10 rebounds, and Paul George had 28. The Clippers really flowed offensively in crunch time, as they scored 40 points in the fourth quarter alone, while the Jazz fell apart defensively because they failed to keep up with the Clippers' small ball lineup. With the Clippers going small, they could find an open man on the three-point line just about every time, because Rudy Gobert lacked perimeter defense. The Clippers' final test in the West was the Phoenix Suns, who not only had home court advantage, but they had an entire week to rest because they just swept the Nuggets in the previous round. The Clippers faced their biggest challenge yet, and needed to play their best basketball in order to even have a chance. Game 1 was closer than expected. After 3 quarters, the Clippers and Suns were tied, but it was the Suns that edged out a 114-120 win in the end. With Kawhi out, George once again had plenty of leeway in terms of offense as he scored 34 points. Game 2 was more of the same, as it also was a close matchup all the way until the end. But with 8 seconds left to play, Paul George gets fouled and has a chance to give the Clippers a 3-point lead. But playoff P wasn't so clutch.
Huge free throws here for Paul George. Missed another, and they call timeout. Paul George misses a pair. Crowder looking, throws it alley-oop. Oh! He puts it down! He puts it down! It's over!
The Clippers absolutely sold the game and were now down 0-2 going back to LA due to an incredible game winner, but the Clippers answered back in Game 3 in a dominant 106-92 victory. The Suns took Game 4 to take a 3-1 lead, but the Clippers weren't done yet as they fought back and won Game 5. The Suns only needed one more game to close out the series, and in Game 6, Chris Paul closed the door shut.
7. Paul, little shake and bake, drives past him, left-handed layup, it's good. Paul, step back, three-pointer, puts it in, and the foul! Chance for a 4-point play.
Devin Booker's at half court talking to the fans.
Paul for 3, puts it in. 118-92, the Suns have blown it open.
CP3 sent the Suns to the NBA Finals with a 40-piece and 8 assists, as the Clippers weren't able to reach their first NBA Finals appearance. The Clippers went into the next season, but for the first time in the Leonard and George era, they didn't come into the season with their championship hopes high, because they had to play a whole season without Kawhi Leonard. As the season progressed, it was clear that the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard were just an okay team, as their record was 13-12 through the first 25 games. But the Clippers would later get some bad news. On December 6, 2021, Paul George would suffer an elbow injury that would keep him out for the rest of the season. With Leonard and George being out, it was clear that LA wouldn't be getting anywhere near a championship this season. George came back late in the season, and the Clippers finished 8th in the West, which got them into a play-in spot. George finished the season with just 31 games played, and averaged 24 points per game. The Clippers played the Timberwolves in the play-in tournament, with a chance to clinch the 7th seed on the line. George started out terribly as he shot just 2 of 10 in the first half, but heated up in the second half, finishing with 34 points. Even though Towns didn't play well, fouling out with just under 8 minutes to play, Patrick Beverley, Ant, and D'Angelo Russell came through for Minnesota, and the Clippers lost by 5. But this wasn't the end of the road for LA yet. They still had a chance to grab the 8th seed in a matchup against the Pelicans 3 days later. But the Clippers would get some devastating news that would end their season. Paul George tested positive for COVID-19 and would be inactive for the next game. The Clippers would go on to lose 105-101, in which a game they led by 13 points in the 4th quarter. After 3 years of the Leonard and George era, the Clippers clearly had a problem on their hand. Their superstars couldn't stay healthy for the playoffs. Going into the season, the goal was to keep their stars healthy, especially Kawhi Leonard, who had just fully healed from his ACL injury. Even though their stars were fully healthy to start the season, you would often see a lot of load management going on. Leonard didn't play back-to-back games, and sometimes Leonard and George would just sit out random games, as a part of the Clippers' strategy to manage their health. But the Clippers' efforts to keep their stars healthy ultimately failed. On March 23, 2023, Paul George suffered a sprained right knee injury that would keep him out for the rest of the season. Another blow to the Clippers' hopes of winning an NBA championship, ruined by injuries. Paul George finished his season averaging just about 24 points per game in 56 games played. Although George was out for the season, the Clippers didn't really drop in the standings, mostly due to the Russell Westbrook trade. Now we can all agree that Westbrook definitely didn't play his best basketball for the Lakers, but this was a completely different version of Russ. For the first time in his career, you could really start to see Westbrook step into more of a leadership role, which was needed in a locker room like the Clippers. Leonard, Westbrook, and the Clippers finished 5th in the West, with Leonard finishing the season with 24 points per game. Most importantly though, is that Leonard finished the season healthy for the first time in 2 years. But even that was too good to be true, because in Game 1 of the first round series versus the Suns, Leonard would suffer another knee injury, the same leg that he tore his ACL in 2021. In spite of this, Leonard, just like 2021, finished the game. And just like in 2021, they won that game. Even though he had a knee injury, he didn't show it much, as he put in a dominant 38 points to give the Clippers a Game 1 victory on the road. Leonard would still play in Game 2 of the series, and actually played well, scoring 31 points. Westbrook pitched in 28 of his own, with the two combining for 59 points. Clippers would ultimately lose this game due to Devin Booker's 38 points and 9 assists. Leonard could only play on an injured knee for so long, and the Clippers decided to shut him down for the rest of the series. With Leonard and George out, Westbrook was the main man, just like his OKC day. In fact, Westbrook played like he was still in his prime, because in Game 3 he scored 30 points and 12 assists, and 42% from 3. The very next game he poured in 37 points and 50% from 3. But the inevitable came to pass, however, and the Suns won Game 3, 4, and 5 to beat the Clippers 4-1. The Clippers were once again defeated, but not because of lack of talent, but because of lack of availability from their stars. Going into the 2023-24 season, the Clippers were still optimistic about winning a championship. They now had a full season to develop some chemistry with Russell Westbrook, and George and Leonard were both healthy to start the season. But something drastic would happen that would make the Clippers even better. Just 4 games into the season, the Clippers traded for James Harden. This trade instantly made the Clippers one of the top teams in the league to contend for a title. Now things turned out okay initially for the Clippers, but they weren't winning games with consistency. But there was a problem that was holding them back. Westbrook and Harden were not good at sharing the floor. Asking 2 ball-dominant players to play together at the same time is not a good recipe for success. Neither Westbrook or Harden were the type of players to run around screens and create a catch-and-shoot 3. They both needed the ball in their hands to be great. Sacrifices definitely needed to be made for this team to consistently win games. And that's when Russell Westbrook made the decision to voluntarily move to the bench. With Westbrook on the bench, it created way more room for George, Leonard, and Harden to operate. And immediately, the Clippers started surging forward. The Clippers were red hot and clearly the best team in the league, and even being number 1 in the West at one point. Towards the end of the season, the Clippers looked strong, but fell in the standings due to a competitive Western Conference. Everything was looking great until Kawhi Leonard was ruled out because of inflammation in his right knee, the same knee that he tore his ACL on in 2021. Initially, the situation didn't look that serious, but when Leonard started missing more and more games, it started to become more of a concern, because the playoffs were right around the corner. Leonard ended up missing the last 8 games of the season and was still out indefinitely. The Clippers finished 4th in the West and had a first-round matchup against, you guessed it, the Dallas Mavericks once again, the 3rd time they would play them in the playoffs in the last 4 years. This was by far the most evenly matched series in the entire first round, as the Clippers and Mavericks both ended the season very strong. Luka was playing like an MVP candidate, averaging 34 points per game that season, alongside Kyrie, who was playing his best basketball in a long time since leaving the net. The Clippers would be coming in as underdogs due to Kawhi Leonard being unavailable. However, that would quickly change, as the Clippers would rout the Mavericks in Game 1 due to a dominant first half performance by James Harden. The Mavericks would then respond in Game 2 in a close 96-93 win. With the series tied going into Dallas, the Clippers would get some exciting news. Kawhi Leonard would return from his absence and would be in the starting lineup for Game 3. But that excitement would slowly fade away, as Leonard would only finish with 9 points in the Game 3 loss. It was clear that his knee was still bothering him, and he would often be very passive, which was very unusual for a player like him. Leonard would then sit out for Game 4, and ultimately the rest of the series, because it was obvious that his knee was still not fully healed. Game 4 was by far the most thrilling game of the series, in which the Clippers would take a narrow 116 to 111 victory to tie the series. Kyrie Irving would drop 40 points in that game, but it wasn't enough as George and Harden each put up 33. Game 5 turned out to be a disaster for LA as they trailed by 20 entering the fourth quarter and proceeded to get blown out by 30 in the end. Luka Doncic put up 35 points and 10 assists, and Kyrie had 14 with an incredible plus 35 plus minus. James Harden would struggle in this game, finishing with just 7 points, and the Clippers now had their backs up against the wall. Going back to Dallas, down 3-2, the Clippers were just about done. The Mavericks closed out the series with a 13-point win, and this ridiculous Kyrie Irving highlight to seal the deal.
For the Dallas Mavericks, Irving dancing, prancing, pulls up, three-pointer, bang! And a foul!
LA had so much potential, but a disappointing Kawhi Leonard injury had once again cut their season short, and this would be the end of the Leonard and George era, as George went into the offseason yet to re-sign with the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard signed a 3-year, $153 million contract extension mid-season, and George demanded to be paid just as much as Kawhi. The Clippers couldn't make that happen, and George became a free agent. He later signed with the 76ers to team up with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. The Leonard and George experiment was officially a failure. Injuries had ruined this team, leaving many fans wondering what would happen if both stars were healthy. But what makes this the worst trade in NBA history? Yes, even worse than the Luka Doncic trade. Fast forwarding to today, the Thunder are by far the best team in the league and are huge favorites to win a championship. That is all thanks to this one trade. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who went to the Thunder as a part of the trade, is now an NBA champion and a reigning MVP. When Shai went to the Thunder, he was teamed up with Chris Paul, who the Thunder got in a trade with the Rockets. Shai instantly started learning from CP3, which led to him being the great point guard that he is today. In the Paul George trade included a 2022 first-round pick. That 2022 first-round pick became Jalen Williams, who has become a superstar forward in the league right now and made the 2025 All-Star team a season ago. Another key piece to the Thunder's championship roster that was provided by the LA Clippers. The Thunder are now one of the best teams we have ever seen, and the crazy thing about it is that they're still young. We could possibly see this team dominate a league for years and years to come, with SGA signing a ridiculous 4-year, $285 million extension, Chet Holmgren signing a 5-year contract extension worth up to $250 million, and Jalen Williams signing a 5-year deal worth up to $287 million, all in July of 2025. And when you thought it couldn't get any worse for LA, it proceeds to get worse. The final piece to this trade includes the Thunder receiving the Clippers' 2026 first-round pick. Well, what does this mean? If you don't know, the NBA draft is ordered through a lottery. The worse the team is, the better chances they get of having a top pick in the draft. And as I mentioned before, the Clippers are terrible and currently are at the bottom half of the West standing. This means that if the Clippers stay in their current form, Thunder could receive a top pick in this year's draft. The worse the Clippers play, the better it gets for the Thunder, and the entire league must suffer because of one trade that the Clippers made. I have never seen a trade with such drastic effects like this, ever, and that's why this, by far, is the worst trade in NBA history.